Rebellions are built on hope.
And welcome to another episode of Radio Rebellion Star Wars podcast. I forgot to unmute myself as I started my intro, but that's okay. We're here on a cold Star Wars Saturday, at least for us down in Florida. It's cold, and for our guest, who's up in Boston, it's even colder. He's not Oti, but he's as best as we could to try to place him. He's our friend Tony Figueroa, one of the co-hosts of Films Not Included, which is Oti's other movie podcast. So, Tony, thanks for joining us for the first time here on Radio Rebellion. How are you doing today?
Doing very good, very good. You know, long time listener, first time caller. So glad to be here.
No, we appreciate it. You reached out. We've been following each other on Twitter for a while. You reached out, I don't know, about 4 weeks ago or something. Hey, if you have an opening for an episode talking Andor, hit me up. We had someone that couldn't do it. It was supposed to be today, actually, Andrew from Outer Rim Reads. Unfortunately, he was supposed to be here last week. He got sick and couldn't make it. But we had an opening, got you in, so I'm glad you're here. Our friend Otis, I don't know, Italy or something, he said he's traveling the world.
He's in Italy, you know, he's a globetrotter, and he's just around the world.
Yeah, just like Andor, going from planet to planet. Hopefully he'll stay out of trouble. So
yeah, hopefully he doesn't get a 6-month prison sentence that goes to 6 years.
Or yeah, and then gets trapped by some weird aliens with a spider web, which was a great thing. But we'll get to that in a minute. Tony, again, first time here, we need to learn a little bit about you. So just give us real quick, kind of what is your Star Wars story? If you remember that first time that you watched it, and then how you became enthralled in this Star Wars universe that we all love.
So yeah, I mean, Star Wars has been something that I feel has been in my life since I can remember thoughts being formed, just as in like having seen it on TV as a little kid, not really knowing what I was watching. And then later on actually sitting down to watch them with with the big hype of the prequels. You know, I'm an early 90s kid, so you know, when that prequel hype started coming up, it was like, okay, let's really dive into it. I have a great Star Wars story as in my history. That's that first movie that my parents went to see as a date when they started dating in Puerto Rico, you know, in the late 70s. That was like their first date movie that they went to, was to go see Star Wars. So it's kind of something that's been in my life for a long time. Like I said, when the prequels came out, I just started really delving into the history. You know, Attack of the Clones for the longest time has been like something that's lived with me as not necessarily my favorite Star Wars movie, but that Star Wars movie that really made me a fan. Just being a little kid watching that movie the first time and just like my whole mind exploding. And, you know, since then I've just been a lifelong Star Wars fan, just in every way, shape, and form. Great, you know, animated fan. I am a great book fan, comic book fan, like just every medium that I can get my hands on for Star Wars. I'm into it.
Yeah. We were just talking before we started about the High Republic Phase 2, the new book coming out next week. It's funny, not funny, but kind of changes the perspective we have on different Star Wars eras. Me being an 80s kid and kind of growing up with the original trilogy and going through all the hate that the prequels got, the more I've been doing this show and meeting younger folks, younger fans, is the love that they have for the prequels. And also Attack of the Clones. A lot of people, like including myself, had it at the bottom of our list of favorites. But Attack of the Clones has a huge following now with everyone that grew up with the prequels. So that's great to know. And of course, Film Not Included, this podcast that you do with our co-host here, Oti. Can you tell us a little bit about what that podcast is about? Where can people, I mean, at the end, you can tell us where people can find it. What do you guys do on that show?
So it's really just a review and discussion podcast about movies, television, comic books, video games, a little bit of everything.
Mm.
And it's, for a Spanish listening crowd. We do it all in Spanish, but
Mm.
we try to be open for as many people as we can and talk about a little bit of everything. It actually started with The Last Jedi coming out.
Okay.
That was the first episode we ever did. And that's where Oti just called me up and he was like, hey man, we always talk about movies. Every time we go see a movie, we're just texting each other, we're calling each other, and we're talking about that. Why don't we just record it? So that's literally what we did, and we've been doing it, since then. We are literally as old as The Last Jedi.
Last Jedi, man. That's another one. Talking about movies that kind of be a little bit divisive, but it's great, again, that Star Wars kind of pushed that into something not 100% related to Star Wars, just all movies out there. But it started with Star Wars. All right, as we get ready to focus on our main topic, make sure if you're watching this live, thank you for being here. Make sure that you like this video, hit that thumbs up, you subscribe to our channel. If it's your first time watching us, thank you. And leave us a comment down below if you're listening to this later on the replay, or of course, if you're listening on the audio podcast when this drops later on the week, give us a rating, a review, follow us on Twitter for as long as that place is still running. We just signed up for a Hive account. Hive Social seems to be picking up steam, so you can find it, and I'll put links at some place. And as always, make sure that you're helping out with the Amidala Initiative for Equality Texas and the National Network of Abortion Funds and the What Choice fundraiser. And I can't forget about our homeline. Again, we have another Puerto Rican here. Help for Puerto Rico. We always say for the hurricanes and everything that has happened over the past few years. And all those links that you see down there on the screen are also in the description of this video, along with some extra links also for the Amidala Initiative and the National Network of Abortion Funds. What Choice? You can find all that in the description of the video. So before we start, let me see who's on the chat. Of course, she's here, our friend Mo. What's up, Mo? Thanks for joining us today. We have one of your questions at the end. We'll answer your question, Mo. It's a great one. I have to think about it. I'm still not sure about my answer. And our friend Nick Prudent, he's in the house. Thanks for joining us again this week, Nick. And then he's also adding that in 20 years, there will be kids from whom Star Wars is Rogue One and under. That's very true. And oh man, that's going to be something in 20 years. Who knows where Star Wars is at that point? And someone said, my first Star Wars when I watched Cassian and Andor get caught in that net by those weird aliens. Oh yeah, Fiddy. Man, they were great.
They really were.
All right, so if you guys are ready, I know I'm ready. Let's talk Star Wars and the Andor files.
I've been in this fight since I was 6 years old.
Has he?
I mean, has he? He definitely has. That's his story, the whole like growing up in this kind of separatist war world, right? But has he? Because he wasn't 5 in the first couple episodes when they showed us him in that weird planet that I always forget the name.
Yeah, I forgot already. He was like 12, right? Or something like that?
Yeah, at least. I mean, I would say at the youngest 10, maybe.
Yeah,
but that's very young still, like, but not 5. Come on.
Yeah, I mean 6. But I was talking to, I think it was Andres from 60 Minutes, and he said, well, maybe he wasn't in the rebellion or that type of fight, but the Empire or the Republic at that point, I don't know, time gaps in my mind. They took over his planet, they were mining it, so in a sense, he's been part of this change in the Republic and the galaxy. So we'll give it to him.
Yeah.
But all right, so before we start kind of diving into the episode, Tony, can you just give us a little bit, just your overall so far coming into the series? Were you excited for it when it was announced? And then how much have you been enjoying it or not enjoying it? And then we'll jump into this 11th episode.
Sure. I mean, when it was first announced, I am still a pretty big Rogue One fan. I really enjoyed the film, and I think it was just a different way of storytelling in the Star Wars world. So I was very excited, but the real thing that I was mostly excited about was just more Diego Luna. I love when my Latin compatriots can just rise up in these huge franchise worlds that are mostly dominated by these white American actors. So it's always just good to know that these people get the chance to tell their story too. So that really got me excited. And then the Tony Gilroy element, I honestly was very excited. I come from a film background. I studied filmmaking, and Tony Gilroy has been somebody that I have followed in the past. His writing, his screenwriting, his storytelling, and it was a bold choice. It's somebody very different to take on this world. So that really had me excited. I was a bit hesitant at the beginning, but it caught me fairly on. That first episode in particular just really just grabbed me, and I've been riding the Andor wave ever since on a pretty high. There have been some episodes that have had some issues, have had lows, but overall I'm very excited about the series. I am a big fan right now, and I can't wait to finish this story that they're trying to tell us.
Yeah, I love how open Tony Gilroy is about everything. We've kind of been accustomed now to Star Wars director, writers, anyone that works in Star Wars, not saying anything. Even after the movies comes out or the series, they don't talk too much about any behind the scenes. He's just out there.
Yeah.
He recently was out how much he had to change Rogue One, all the changes behind it. We know a lot already about season 2 of Andor because he doesn't show up, and we love it because it's finally they're just giving us more stuff to kind of jump into and dig in, and it's been great.
Yeah.
So yeah, Nick also added that maybe Andor lost his parents when he was 6 and has been fighting ever since. That's a possibility.
It's a possibility, yeah.
Yeah. All right.
And we still don't know anything about the sister. So
do you think that sister will come back into play?
I mean, I don't know if you have been listening to me and Oti's Andor episodes, but I have a theory about his sister, that it's Dedra could be Andor's sister.
Oh,
that
come
was
on.
taken in by the Empire, and I don't know. It works out, man. I like those sort of things that, and Oti and I talk about it all the time. The idea that, this enemy that you've been looking for and fighting for this whole time is right in front of you, or has been next to you this whole time.
Are we gonna jump into Halbrand and Galadriel in Rings of Power?
We can. I mean, I know you've been into it, so yeah, I mean, it's that whole thing. It's the idea that what you've been looking for this whole time, it's closer to home than you think. And I don't know, I told Oti, it's not, I don't think it would happen, or it's just one of those things that the very first moment that we start seeing these characters, it's the first thing that comes to my mind. It's like the little grain of doubt that's just being like, ooh, could this be happening? Which about today's episode, I also have something.
Yeah, all right. Well, I don't know. I mean, I really hope that we get some follow-up with his sister, because that was so important to his character, especially early on, and kind of took the story the way that it went when those cops just kind of went in to confront him, and that's how Zero was able to find out who Cassian was, because there was this mention of the planet. So it'll be interesting to see. Dedra, I don't know. I love Dedra. Just give me more. Mo is adding maybe Kleya as Cassian. All right. Are you hearing me?
Yep.
All right. My microphone died. I knew I had to charge it, and I just waited. Anyway, so can Kleya be Cassian's sister? Is a possibility. I mean, she doesn't know who he is, because she wanted to kill him a few episodes ago. So hopefully.
And again, it's there's always the possibility in this Star Wars world, but it's all about how they tell us the story, right? They haven't had any interaction yet, and they haven't had any connection, so possibilities are a bit slim, but it could always be. Could always be.
It's one thing is these writers and directors haven't let us down so far. So whatever direction they want to take it, I trust them, because every choice they made so far has paid off. So hopefully it comes back. Dedra, Kleya, anyone
Whoever
else,
it is.
Cinta, we'll see. We'll find out. All right.
Cinta, Mon Mothma. I'm just kidding. It wouldn't. That would. Who knows?
Dude, it's World Between Worlds. All right, so let's jump into episode 11. We're just one episode away from season 1 finale, but this one was basically everyone experiencing some sort of loss or remorse over their actions, the consequences of their action. We have, of course, Cassian having to deal with the loss of his mother, and then we have with Mon Mothma having to deal with her actions and how everything's falling down. Her daughter also now even more alienated because she's into all these weird traditions that they have from Chandrila. And even at some point, even not so, but Luthen, when he's talking to Saw, and Saw kind of asks him, "Hey, do you agree with your actions or something like that?" And Luthen said, "At the beginning, yes. Now I'm having second thoughts. So right now, not so much of giving Kreegyr up." And we're gonna talk a lot about that. So I love those stuff going on, and traditions, history, what they do with the dead in Ferrix, and then all the traditions in Chandrila. So even though it didn't seem to be a very deep episode, there were a lot of deep kind of themes going on.
Yep.
So just overall, your thoughts on this episode, and then we'll jump into Cassian and Melshi kind of leaving Narkina 5.
I mean, overall, this episode I think was a great just wrap up of some of the stories that led us off from the last episode, but also the push for the finale, right? It's leaving us with these unresolved issues and unresolved situations that are going to take us to the end of the story and end of the finale, and the way things are looking, like all roads are leading to Ferrix right now.
Yeah.
And it's about what's going to happen there and how is it all going to end up. And I think it was a pretty powerful episode overall. Like you said, a lot of lore, a lot of character moments, a lot of character development overall, and also just bringing all of these stories together. I think we finally have the tie-in of all of these stories into one thing. Maybe Mon Mothma still a little bit separated from the Andor situation of it all, but everybody else, like Luthen, knows that Andor is a snake in his shoe at the moment, and Val and Cinta are still on the hunt, and we have the whole Cyril Karn situation of it all, Deidre situation of it all. Like, we're finally bringing it all together. So I liked it. I was really into it, and I think it was just a great, I'm not gonna say filler, but a great episode to lead us into the finale. It's too tied into everything that you can't just like separate it into one thing.
Yeah, I wouldn't call this a filler. Like you said, right now, I have it somewhere on my notes. It's everyone's moving their pieces to go into Ferrix for this funeral to try and trap Andor, being Deidre with the ISB, Cyril with the other guy that have their own plans, and Cinta and Vel over there watching. So everyone's just waiting for Andor to come now and just spring that trap. Except, like you said, Mon Mothma is the only one that has nothing to do with Andor, and that's fine. She doesn't need to be worrying about him or know who he even is at this point.
Yeah.
Season 2, we'll deal with that on season 2.
Yeah.
But I love that it's... Oh, before we go on, let me say hi to our friend Roberto Venegas. How you doing, Roberto? Thanks for joining us today. And yes,
Hola, Roberto.
yeah, we're all having a good Star Wars Saturday here. Hope having the same thing about a good Saturday. So I love that this episode starts with Cassian and Melshi still on the run from leaving the Narkina 5 prison. I love that Cassian was still playing that part of trying to keep Melshi's mind away from the pain of his hand. Just repeating the same thing. Oh, I think they're leaving. I think they're leaving. And he's like, don't say that. Don't say that. But then I can feel my hands. And then when Melshi goes back, tell me that they're leaving. It's like, oh, man.
So visceral and emotional, and the way that they're and obviously we know that we have to end with a Cassian that is a leader and is a person who can lead a team of people who necessarily don't know what's happening or don't know what's going on, but he wasn't that yet, but he's becoming that now. And obviously the Narkina 5 prison break is a key moment in Andor's like elevation to this character. and just the way they show us, the way they shot the hands, the feet, the
Yeah.
rocks, the way the airship is flying down, just all these little pieces coming together to really evoke an emotion in us. And I was just like glued to the TV. Like the minute that it started, I was just like, are they gonna get caught now? Like, what's happening? Like, I know they survive, but do they get caught now and then they come back out? Like, what's happening? But yes, the way that they tell us this, like, show us what's happening, it's such an amazing opening to this episode.
Yeah, and it was great. And even though we know what's going to happen, at least leading to Rogue One, you feel bad for the characters. Poor Melshi, he was down and out at the prison. He's like, we're never getting out. Don't even think about it. We're going to die. And then he's just trying to get up that hill. I don't know if I can climb back up. It's like, just get there. It's like 5 feet away. You can do it.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, unfortunately, they did get caught, even if it was for about 2 minutes. They see two aliens at the bottom of this ridge with one of my favorite ships. Not really, but just a mention of it. The quad jumper that we only know from Force Awakens, mainly because of the trailers in it blown up. But those Narkinian aliens, I love my aliens. Andor has been doing a good job with the weird species that we're getting. And then just bring that travel. Like, look at these two jerk-offs trying to steal our ship. And how easy they got caught. And then the whole thing, we're going to kill you, or there's a bounty for anyone that's trying to escape. But the Empire is messing up their water supply, has poisoned everything. We're not going to give them anything else. So we'll let you go. So that scene, were you not afraid, but kind of, oh, really? They just got out and they got caught again?
Well, I was definitely, caught unaware by the situation and wasn't really sure where we were going with it.
Yeah.
But I love that it all ended in the Star Wars of it all, the hopeful element of all of these people coming together to fight the one thing, right? And understanding that regardless of the cultural differences and the multi, levels that all of these worlds have, and whether you're outer rim, inner rim, core worlds, whatever it is, everybody's fighting the same villain.
Yeah.
And I love that even though the Narkinians were clearly just messing around with them, they just wanted to be like, haha, we're gonna bring you to the police, but at the end they're not gonna do it. But they do understand that the villain is the Empire, and that they're the people who are ultimately responsible for everything that's happening, and these two guys have really nothing to do with it. So let's just help them out. Let's take them to where they need to go. And I honestly thought that was an amazing scene.
Yeah, like Nick is saying, they were messing with the squiggles on our water, right? I love the design. I love the voice of those aliens. And like you say, it's like, yeah, whatever. We'll just help you get out. Where do you want to go? I was very surprised that Andor said, let's go back to Niamos. It's like, what? You got big private parts to say, let's go back to a place that they caught me, arrested me, and sent me over here. Let's go back over there.
It is. I mean, they did show us the whole box thing on the other episode, which I forgot about. So it's kind of good that they kind of tied it into this episode, because I was like, same as you. I was like, why does he want to go back? Like, what's the point? But I also like how they presented Niamos now. I love how when we saw it the first time, it was like, Space Florida is what Oti called it. And it was like, check out this party thing. But now completely empty. Nobody's there. Nobody's obviously the Empire did what they wanted to do there and take away the whole criminal element, even though they clearly weren't.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, why would you go back to a place where you literally just got caught and got, taken away? But it gives for great cinematography. I mean, that last shot with Melshi and Andor is just so beautifully shot, and it gives you those Rogue One vibes, them at the beach, what's gonna happen.
Yeah, when Niamos, the first time we saw Niamos, everyone, oh no, Cassian's again on a beach planet. It's not gonna end well. So very surprised that they went back. Same as you, I forgot all about the box. And even though it didn't play a huge part on this episode, I love that we also got to see that Nemik's manifesto is still there, which I had after he was caught. I'm like, okay, well, the manifesto has nothing to play in his story going forward. But then going back, getting the box, and open it to see how the manifesto was there was a great move, and it's going to come back to play later on. I don't know if that will be the finale, maybe season 2, but who knows. But yes, well,
But
let's
it
focus.
gives to Andor's character, right?
Yeah.
It's like he's clearly like the time that he was in Niamos before, he was listening to it. It was something that he kept with him, and he was starting to understand. Maybe when Nemec gave it to him, he was still like, okay, maybe this isn't, but now he knows, like, this is his Bible now. This is what he's gonna learn and to do, and how to change and understand what evil really is.
Yeah, because at first when they asked him, "Oh, I'm just here for the money," I got paid to do a job, I'm getting my cut, and then out of here, not about the cost. But now that he's gone through the system, unfortunately, it's like, oh no, I gotta do something more about it. But yeah, that ending, before we talk about Melshi and him kind of separating at the end, so Andor, Cassian, he calls back to home, back to Ferrix. Hey, tell Maarva I'm doing my stuff. She'll be proud of me. Tell her I love her. I'll be there as soon as I can. And then just learning that her mom had passed. It's a shock. She's been a month and a half or something in jail. Finally got out. Wants to tell her mom that he's doing fine. Hasn't heard from him in so long. She's probably worried. I wasn't there when she died. How is this going to affect now him going forward and maybe joining the rebellion or doing something else? Do you think the way that she died, because when Otto was here last week, he was saying, oh, she's going down on a blaze of glory. She's going to go against the Empire. They're going to kill her. And that's probably how Cassian joins the fight. I hope she doesn't die that way. I thought that she was going to die of natural causes, but that Cassian was able to speak with her one more time, and then she kind of breached that out of him. But do you think now her dying at the hands of the Empire, not dying at her hands, but he not being able to be there because of what the Empire did to him, is what pushes him now to join this rebellion?
So, I mean, are you ready for my curveball? Because this is...
Throw it.
And I told Oti, I was like, could Maarva's death be a rebel ploy to get the Empire to come back to Ferrix and them just, get rid of them all? And, not to say that I didn't like the whole Maarva death sequence and learning about the daughters of Ferrix and the friend of Cassian, who I always forget his name. I don't not Tim is what Oti calls him.
Brasso.
But B2 Emo also, like, all that he's going through. But could Maarva's death really just be a rebel ploy to get all these elements that we know are looking into the rebel situation in Ferrix? We know they're kind of organized, not extremely organized, but they have some sort of communication system throughout. We saw it in the episodes when they were coming to get them. And it's interesting, it all happens out of the blue. I mean, we know Maarva has issues. It's been stated from episode 1, so we know it's a situation, but I don't know. It could be all roads lead to Ferrix, so we know a massive situation is gonna happen. I'm not saying that now, Maarva's just gonna kick open a door with a laser gun and just start killing everybody, but it could be. That being said, I do feel that is the key moment that Andor understands how much he has to lose. He kind of, he comes back to get Maarva. He wants her to come with him, but when Maarva tells him, I'm too old, I'm too frail, just go, you do your thing, we'll meet back together. She kind of lets him up with the seed of, understand the bigger fight. And losing Maarva is just, I feel, the moment that Andor can be like, wow, I just literally lost all that I had. What else do I have to live for if not the battle for the Empire, right? And knowing that Maarva as well was fighting the Empire, she was completely against it. So was Clem. Clem died doing that. His only father figure that we know of up to this moment. So I mean, I do think that in terms of storytelling and what they're doing for us, it's just another step up. the way they presented it to us, the whole B2 emo element of it all, I feel was just spot on.
Yeah, poor B2. We'll get to him in a minute. So also, as I was watching the episode, I thought her death was a fake out. I didn't think that she was really dead. We don't see the body at any point. We saw something wrapped, a body, or at least something with the shape of a body was wrapped and kind of carted off. So I was, oh, this is a fake. Something's going to happen. And there's going to have this firefight right there on the streets of Ferrix. Maybe it's a way to get to that tunnel that she mentioned before. But I don't know. By the end of it, I'm like, oh, maybe she did die. I don't know how much the people there on Ferrix knows that the ISB and everyone else is kind of watching their house. To it to kind of be a rebel ploy to get all the Imperials out there.
Yeah.
But I'll say I'm like 80-20, 85-20, 15, 85-15 if Maarva's really there, this is a fake out. But
Yeah,
when
I mean,
Andor calls and they tell him, oh, your mother died, that's when they can now come back with it. But I don't know.
I feel like that's the moment too. It's like, would they tell Andor? And why would they want Andor to come back to Ferrix? Even if they're going to make this whole firefight thing and get the Empire out of Ferrix, why would they want him to come back? Because there's even the guy telling him that it's happening. He's like, he's kind of being like, stay away, but your mom's dead. Like, they know he's going to come.
Well,
it's in Andor's kind of almost selfishness too, right? That he only cares about himself, but that's an extension of himself, right? The people he cares about, his friends as well. We know he cares about Bix very, very much. We know he cares about was it Bosco, the other friend as well?
Brazos.
Like he cares about his friends. It's not that he doesn't care about them. He has this internal kind of like moral guide to him, but that's kind of where it ends right now. And now he's starting to add people to that, right? Melshi, the people in the prison, obviously what he went through with Kino and the people in the prison has changed him. So if he comes back to Ferrix, he's not the same Andor that left Ferrix. So he's gonna join this fight to help the people that he knows are involved in it. He's always been kind of separated to it. He knows that Bix and these people are like kind of doing their thing on the side, but he's his own man. He's a mercenary in his own right. Now he's starting to delve into the teamwork of it all. So, that is the moment when you're like, is the ploy fake or not? Why would you tell him that? So I'm still like 75-25 maybe, but we'll see.
Yeah. And I think also once he learns what they've been doing to Bix, because Bix is still being tortured, I think that's going to be another. And I just want to say one more thing about Niamos, I guess, before we jump then to Maarva's test and everything happening on Ferrix. Because you mentioned this, that moment with Melshi. And Melshi, again, a couple of days ago, he thought he was going to die in this prison. Now he's like, we need to let people know what's going on out there. Nobody knows what really is happening. We need to let the people know. I love that scene. I love the way that it was acted. And again, it gives that relationship that they have that 5 years from now, they'll be, again, on that beach on Scarif, laying down their lives, fighting for this cause.
Yep.
So I just love that scene that Melshi was not just, we saw him in one episode and then he'll be back in Rogue One. He has an important part to play in all this. So I just love that. And then Mo
I'm with you because, Diego's, I mean, it is.
Yeah, exactly.
And you can see him kind of change from that moment when he's like, oh, we're going to die here. We're not going to get out of here. We're going to kind of end up in this prison too. We have to let people know what's happening here. It also parallels or actually flips the coin to what they were saying in prison. Who's listening? Is anybody listening? Nobody is listening, and now they need to tell the story or need to like get this voice out there so people can listen. And I love that that's an element through and through in Star Wars. It's getting the message out. You know, and it's the biggest thing at the end of Last Jedi, right? It's like the message doesn't reach the people that it needs to reach. But then we come to Rise of Skywalker and the message does. That's something that we see in Rebels as well. It's like, can we get the message out? You know, we see it in God, what's the planet that Ezra is from?
Lothal.
Lothal. Like, we see it in Lothal. It's like, we need to let people know what's happening here. We need to get the message out, and that's what gets people to come in. So I love that we end in that note of Melshi just being like, hey, I know that I wasn't with you a little bit ago, but now we really need to move forward and get people to come to our side.
Yeah. Oti always says that he picks little moments in each episode to kind of highlight. And I think that for me, we'll use that as that little moment that might go unperceived by a lot of people, had a lot of meaning behind it. Everything over here is that my microphone died, one of my lights died. So I'm sorry out there. It's just me right now. You don't see anything else. But we'll just keep going then with Maarva's death and everything happening on Ferrix. We already talked about her passing. Brazos there kind of taking over. There's no one else kind of to help Maarva. Biggs is locked up, Andor is gone, so Brazos has taken over as doing all the arrangement with the help of the Daughters of Ferrix. But the episode starting with poor B2 Emo, a droid. Again, Star Wars, they do droids so great. It's not something it's just a droid, so they don't have feelings. In Star Wars, you know, all the droids are feeling, but the way it was shot, like you said at the beginning, the way they shot certain scenes, that it looked like he was crying. With just the shot of that glass on top of him, it looks like the poor droid was crying, doesn't want to be alone, doesn't want to leave his house because it's the only place that he knows. It was just heartbreaking to see a droid go through that. In Star Wars, because Star Wars, it's for kids, it's this fantasy, sci-fi, haha, we all have fun with it. Droids are always the things that make us laugh, but now seeing one go through all these emotions was pretty heartbreaking, different, but just done in a great way that this is just a kid losing a parent also.
Yeah, and I always try to take it back to one of our very first droids, and that's C-3PO. C-3PO, for the longest time, was this comedic element to the film. He was just there really to make us laugh. And then we end 9 movies later with him literally having to sacrifice everything he's ever had to know to save the people that he cares about. He doesn't just want them to succeed because he's their droid and he wants them to succeed because he cares about the things that they care about. And you know, we see that through and through with all of the droids in Star Wars, or most of them. You know, R2-D2 has always been like that key element in a lot of characters. And in recent Star Wars, we'd have some of the best. You know, we've had Lola in Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
We had Dio in Rise of Skywalker. We had BB-8 in Force Awakens. All these droids that just like really elevate what it means to be a non-humanoid character in Star Wars. I feel like they're the most humans sometimes. They actually are the element of humans. They bring a realism to what we're doing, an emotional element that other characters can't, and B2 just really sells that in that scene. The POV that they show us of him, just how he's talking and reacting to all that's happening, how he doesn't want to leave Maarva's side or the home. It's just, it really tugs at the heartstrings in a way that sometimes even the human characters don't do it.
Yeah, even at the beginning when Brazos says, "Oh, we gotta go, we're moving him," he's like, "Oh, I'll wait here just in case she comes back," or something like that. And that's also like, "Oh, are they faking it?" But we've been through that as younger kids, or at any point losing someone close to you, losing a parent. Those first few days, you still think they might come back, or you try to call their name because you forgot. It's just this habit. But yeah, you mentioned Dio, and if you read Shadow of the Sith, that we get a lot with Dio and freaking guy with the knife. I always forget Ochi.
Oshi.
With Oshi, and we see how much Oshi just treated how bad he treated Dio, and just showing that Dio felt everything, and kind of, yeah, these droids have feelings out there. So we talked a little bit about Biggs still being tortured by the Empire. They show her a hologram of Kreegyr, trying to get her to say this is the person that she introduced Andor to. We don't get her answer. Do you think she might lie through it, or?
Well, I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I really don't remember, but do we see her interact with Luthen at any moment in those episodes when she calls him in?
Yes. So when
Okay.
Luthen gets there, they meet for about a minute.
Okay,
in the
so
street.
she knows who Luthen is. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
then, I mean, again, she's so mentally in a whole other space that I feel like she could maybe say yes, just because she still doesn't know. I love that first introduction is just her still like almost hallucinating what has been happening to her.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know. I feel like this whole like Anton Kreegyr situation feels almost like how does this all tie in? Like, how are we gonna bring it all to home with it? It's almost like let's just add a random character here, but we know it's not a random character because something will happen with it. I do feel like Bix is just in not the best headspace, so she probably might not say the right answer because of that. Just because she knows Luthen doesn't mean that she's gonna now remember him after this whole situation.
Yeah, Anton Kreegyr, to me that was a throwaway name on that episode where it was mentioned, who's Anton Kreegyr? I went through Wikipedia and all these places, and we never heard this name. Okay, whatever, it's just a name. And now it seems to be an important character, at least name-wise, moving forward. Yeah, I don't know where Biggs is gonna fall on this. She might say yes, she might say no. She's so messed up that she doesn't even know what's going on. I just want to highlight this comment real quick from Nick and just finish up the droid talk, saying that George Lucas based the droids on two comic characters in Akira Kurosawa's Hidden Fortress, and in that film, those characters are comedic first, but face tragic and death. Become tragic and face death, which a lot of droids, even poor C-3PO, like you said, twice he's had his memory erased. Poor droid. It's a problem being a protocol droid.
Yep.
So yeah, we said Cinta's there looking at the house. I forget the name of the ISB agent also working that tavern or whatever, looking at the house. Oh, playing dumb. What happened? Is that an important person? Do you know her? And she's like, I just been here a few days.
Yeah.
But I love that. Again, it comes to everyone's preparing their little traps or setting up, moving their pieces, hoping for Andor to come back. Like we said, the ISB guy with Deidre. Cyril Karn gets this call from Monk, I think is Musk. So from Musk, from this smelter. We got him. I think, yes, sir. I love that. Her Cyril's mom, for the first time, is all messed up. She didn't have time to get dressed. So I just love all that scene. But yeah, it's like a lot of people have been saying it all. It's going back to Ferrix. So I can't wait for the finale. There's a few shots from the trailer that we haven't seen yet, and everything's on Ferrix. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens in this finale. But just anything else from Ferrix before we move on to Luthen and Saw?
No, I mean, again, I just think it's how these characters are going to deal with this situation. We do know, and this is going based on that Maarva did die and that whole thing is real. There is an element of a wake and a funeral and the lore behind what the people of Ferrix are doing. So I do love that, regardless of how these people are kind of, you could almost say they're like bits and pieces of the universe coming together in this planet of refugees almost. They are a community, and they are a people who care about each other. And there are no differences, there are no social classes or anything like that. It's all about just coming together as a community, which I feel like it's something very important leading to this finale. So I just can't wait to see that just come to fruition, right?
Yeah, and that's a great lead up to this comment from Mo because yeah, that Ferric is a community. No one's gonna turn on anyone except for Tim. Well, he's gone now.
Goddamn Tim.
Tim, everything could have been safe if you weren't there. But Mo is talking about Edie being a chismosa. So Zero counts Mo just being that tattletale. It's probably so yeah, you're right. And then I don't know, Nick. Nick has a question. How come Luthen worries about Cassian having seen his face but not worried about Bix? I don't know. I gotta think back if it's something maybe he said on their way to the planet when Luthen took Saw.
I
Luthen
mean,
took Cassian, but I don't know. That's a good question. I'm not sure.
I think if anything, it is kind of stated that Bix has had past dealings with Luthen, and she has had business with him in the past. Whereas this is Cassian's very first, interaction. So
Mhm.
maybe Luthen kind of has already taken a read on Bix and knows that Bix does care about the cause, so she would never betray it. Whereas Cassian is a loaded gun at this moment.
Yeah.
Like, the moment that you can see it from that first interaction with them, with the Star Path engine, and the Empire, like, or the Corpos coming to get
Mhm.
them, like it. He doesn't know how Cassian is gonna react or how he's gonna take this whole, oh, you can join something bigger than yourself.
Mhm.
So Cassian to Luthen is still almost like a wild card. And Bix, yes, Bix, does know who he is, but Bix clearly has a bigger in on the cause than Cassian, or at
Yeah.
least that's what they have been showing us.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully, it'll get explained. I'm very interested to see that kind of reunion between Cassian and Luthen. I have no idea how it's gonna go. Very interested to see how it's gonna go, especially with Cinta and Vel on this
Yep.
mission to kill him. Are they going to try to play on it? Are they gonna pull back? Is Luthen gonna show up on Ferrix? Which I don't think so. I will leave that. I'll ask you as before we end the show. But let's talk a little bit about Luthen, so and all that interaction. It kind of starts with Vel visiting Cleia on Coruscant. Hey, I have information. Where is he? He's not here. Blah blah blah. He has and lets her know about Maarva's death, and it's very pointed that she wants Cleia to let Luthen know that this information came from her. I don't know why, but maybe Cleia is taking too much ownership of information that's being brought up, kind of coming from her when it's coming from someone else. But I love that scene when Vel kind of tells him, "Oh, I've been doing a lot for him lately. What have you done?" And she's like, "I don't do daily. I don't do frequently. I don't have lately. I have always. Like I'm always here with him. I do this. I keep him calm. It's like I'm the one to put in day in and day out with him. So I love that little scene.
Yeah.
And also shows like Cleia told Vel, everything you're doing now is wrong. At first, she doesn't mention Luthen by name when she visits Mon Mothma 2 episodes ago, and Mon Mothma asks, "Oh, what has have you been doing?" And she's like, "We don't say his name, or who are you talking about?" Something like that. And now she's just saying Luthen, Luthen all the way. So it's everyone's kind of losing their temper a little bit.
Mhm.
So that little scene was great.
Yeah, a lot of emotions, and I feel
Mhm.
like it's also kind of tying it in a little to the last one with Lonnie, right? It's like how Lonnie asked Luthen, like what have you sacrificed? And Luthen is just like, listen here. you know so Cleia's playing the long game. Cleia understands what's happening. Vel, at this moment, is still like a hired gun, and like just not, she cares about the cost, but she plays more the role of the mercenary than the actual rebel. So it'll be interesting. I think emotions are going to be very high leading to the next episode, which could be the downfall of the Vel and Cinta situation, because that's another reunion that I'm crazy to see, just how Vel, Cinta, and Cassian just find each other again.
Mhm.
Vel basically having almost been like, get out of my life, after Andor, did what he did.
Mhm.
And good to him. He did what he had to do.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Nick is saying they'll start out again. She just wants to go and join Cinta, her girlfriend. She needs her.
Yeah,
But
of
yeah,
course.
that relation with that trio is going to be interesting to see how it plays out. And our friend Dale is here. How you doing, Dale? Don't worry. You were a little bit late. You're here now. Thanks for joining us. But yeah, if we're talking about meetings and things of that nature, it's all Luthen and Saw. Saw Gerrera, I was afraid that just getting him on that one episode was all we're gonna get of him. But apparently he had a change of mind, called Luthen, hey, I'm ready to join Anton Kreegyr, let him know I'm gonna provide air support, but I'm taking everything from the East factory or whatever it was, plus I want everything that you promised me, and I'm only taking everyone's taking order from me. I don't care. It's my show now. So I love that. So it was like, okay, I'm gonna go kill some Imperials. That's all I care about. But then Luthen's like, actually, it's too late for that. Time has gone. ISB knows all about Kreegyr. They're gonna kill all 30 of them, plus Kreegyr. Plus Kreegyr. I changed the title of this episode today. 30 men plus Kreegyr. Making it very. I forget my words. Very important, I guess. That's not just 30, it's plus Kreegyr is one of the leaders, I guess, of these different pockets of rebellion.
Yeah, of course.
But I love, because we talked about it here, and you mentioned that speech from Luthen, everything he sacrificed. We talked last week about how, yes, he sacrificed a lot, but at least to myself, it seems like a very selfish sacrifice, the way that he's been doing it. And I think we said that he would sell Saw as quickly as Anton Kreegyr, and I love that Saw called him out on it. Oh, you would just do the same thing for me? And of course, Luthen's reaction to that was same thing. Is you know me, so I have something to lose if the ISB gets you. Anton Kreegyr doesn't know me, so to hell with him. Mm-hmm. Again, it's what affects him. But I just love the whole scene, especially when Saw is like, oh, how do you know this? You have either your ISB or you have someone there in the ISB, which means you have someone here, you have someone everywhere. What's going on? And so starting to get paranoid, and the way that it was acted, and then poor Two Tubes gets thrown under the bus. It's not me, don't kill me. I just love the whole scene.
Yes, totally agree. I think it sells two things. One, the kind of like guerrilla fighter paranoidism that Saw embodies, but also the strategic analytical side that Luthen embodies as well, because he tells him, he's like, we can either try to save these men now and lose the fight overall, or sacrifice them and play the long game. And right now it's all about the long game. They can't just take the fight to them. And poor Two Tubes.
Everyone's suffering for Tubes.
I love that little Star Wars thing that you can be a little comedic about some things. A character that I've always loved in Star Wars is Hondo from Clone Wars and stuff, and just the way that he would easily do that same thing too, just be like, oh, it's this guy right here. But the way he plays it, right, just to grab his gun and make Saw here. And that's the other thing, like Saw goes like, oh, you're just gonna kill me right here, and Luthen goes,
you're not getting out.
I don't want to kill you. That's not the point of this. The point is that you listen to what I'm trying to tell you, is that there's something bigger at play in this situation. It's not just about you and me right now. It's about you, me, and the however many rebel cells that we have working on through and through the whole universe.
Yeah, and it's a great acted scene. We've said, I don't know, probably every episode, this is the reason you get actors of this caliber to come to Star Wars and play these type of characters, because you need that gravitas behind it.
Totally.
And just the way he plays Saw from Rogue One and here is just so great. So I just love everything about it. Poor Two Tubes just falling into the trap, because he says he's so nonchalant. These Tubes, of course, it's your man. Tell him. It's like, oh, it wasn't me. It's like, dude, he's playing you. You gotta know this. But then they go again into the 30 men plus Kreegyr. Call it what you want. let's call it war,
Mhm.
right? Because it's for the greater good. Let's call it war. But then, so hopefully we get more Saw in season 2. I don't think we'll see him in the finale, but hopefully season 2.
Yeah.
So we get Luthen back on his ship, the Fondor, and he's talking to Kleya, and Kleya kind of let him know what's going on. And I love the way that they talk about Saw and Andor as either players or artifacts for their store. That were is these players still in play? Yeah, but I have to give too much, or I didn't have a hand to play when talking about Saw. I gave more than I wanted. Is the other player still in play? I love that whole interaction. But then the Empire has to show up, and we get this Fondor class, whatever, Cantwell class cruiser, and he has to. We've seen the trailers. We've been waiting for the lightsaber,
The spinning
ship, the spinning
laser, whatever shit that he does.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I love that scene. If we're talking about Andor, it doesn't feel like Star Wars. That was Star Wars. That interaction with the Imperial agent.
Yeah.
The getting the fake codes and then the codes checkup. Oh, so we just let him go? No, we need the practice, which sounds a lot like police just pulling someone up just to mess with them, even though they weren't breaking a rule or something.
Yeah.
Just to bring some type of political talk to real life like we always do. But, and I posted on Twitter a few days ago, I've been critical of the Thrawn books, the last few canon Thrawn books, because they seem to be kind of repetitive, and it's not just my style of writing, or that I like reading the way that Timothy Zahn writes all the space battles. Too technical, they go up 7 degrees on an incline and then yaw this way because the gravity of the planets takes them. I can't. But the way that he took out the dish for the tractor was very Thrawn. Get them talking, find out how much power they're using on the tractor being, shut off this engine. When I do this, you're going to do that. And then I have these spikes that no one has seen before. It's going to blow off the dish. And then we're just telling it out of here. Very Thrawn-like. And I love every single second of it with the spinny lightsabers.
Yeah, and I think it just gives another element to the Luthen character. While introduction to him with Andor, when he has the bombs on the outside, and he's like, you have to work your exit strategy on your way in. This just keeps to show that Luthen's a beast. Like, he's clearly had military training, and he clearly has had an insight onto like what the world of fighting is, and he does it so well. I had like almost Boba Fett feels to it. Like, this guy knows how to like strategically run through the mission, and it's all about talking to them, being like, I'm a one-man show, I'm trying to deal with the engine, I got a problem, and then putting the force on the tractor beam to get them to raise it, and then getting the things to like it was just so spot on. And like you said, very, very Thrawn. We know that that's how he thinks and how he operates. So just I was extremely enthralled by it.
I like, just to finish a Thrawn thought, I've said before that this show, the way it's written and everything, fits the character of Thrawn to show up at some point. We know time-wise he's with the Empire at this point. I would love a scene of Thrawn and Luthen just talking, trying to man up each other, who's smarter, who knows the exit strategy that you mentioned. It would be a great scene, especially written by this group. I would just love to see that on season 2.
Totally.
So I have a question here from Nick, and I have no idea, but he asked, wait, what are my comments? Here we go. Do we think that Saw Gerrera, the character, was loosely based on Che Guevara, famously and rightfully paranoid about the CIA and spies? Could be. I don't know too much of the history, so I cannot say for certain, but
yeah, I mean, that's something Oti and I have spoken to that at length in our episodes when we've talked about Andor. I do feel like Saw Gerrera is very much inspired by not just Che Guevara, but also Fidel Castro, and the way that both of them took on the Cuban Revolution. My father is Cuban, so I've delved a lot into the history of the revolution and what they've done. And I believe wholeheartedly that the character of Saw Gerrera is meant to inspire that element, right, of a rebellion. A rebellion can be fought many ways. And, while guerrilla fighting and what could be called the negative elements of the guerrilla fighting is what Che Guevara was mostly known for. There is also the element of what he rightfully did, and to help the people retake their country and retake their lands and all that stuff. But yes, Saw Gerrera is very much inspired by Che Guevara and the way that he acted through and through his whole life, the paranoidism, the way he took on war, understanding that the enemy is the enemy, but also the enemy can die. The enemy doesn't have to survive the battle, which is a lot of what Saw, talks about in those Clone Wars episodes. Like, he just wants to kill the Separatists, right? And the Separatists are droids at that point, but at some point they become humans with the stormtroopers, right? So yeah, I mean, I do think that Che Guevara plays a lot of inspiration to what Saw wants to show on his side of the rebellion, right? And Saw's a character that we know it's a controversial character in the rebellion. Most of the rebellion disagrees with what he does and how he does things, which was a lot of Che Guevara's problem too. Like, a lot of the people fighting the fight that he was fighting were like, should we go this far? Like, is this really what we should be doing?
Yeah, it's like you said, there's different ways that the rebellion is fighting, same as in real life. And now we see Saw, Luthen, mainly Saw, getting very action-wise and upfront with it. Then you get the other side with his Mon Mothma and the senators being more the political side. So let's finish up talking about Mon Mothma and what she's going through now. Because she's at a point now, the consequences of her actions are creeping up, and she's starting to believe that she might have made a mistake. A lot of things are up on the air that she can't control, starting with her daughter, which at first was this teenager rebelling against her mom because she wasn't there for her, too busy with work. But now some of her worst fears are coming through, that her daughter is very traditional to the way that Chandrilian customs. And especially these early betrothals and marriage proposals very early in her life. Vel gets there and see her chanting with her friends. It's like, why are you having her do this? Your position and here on Cruz, and you don't need to push her to this. It's like, it's not me. Even parent doesn't want this, but she's into it. And then she just lets Vel know everything that's been going on, gives her all the financial troubles, everything going with the banks, that Luthen told her not to bring a new player in, but she had to bring someone, and Vel knew it was going to be Take Colma. Do you trust him? And it's not enough. She just belts out everything that's going with her. It's like, at this point, Mon Mothma, it's at the lowest level we've seen her so far. Heartbreaking. It was glassy eyes all over for her on that scene. All those 5 or 10 minutes, she had tears on her eye, which was another great scene.
Yeah, and I think it goes to show how very well these characters are written and how they're progressing and what they're doing. Because you can very much akin it to a lot of like the criminal underworld and how they feel and what they do, because they feel like what they do might be right or whatever. But then when it gets into their real life and it affects consequences that affect their real life, that's when they start to really think about what they're doing. And, not saying that Mon Mothma is a criminal, but in the world that we are living in, the universe, she is. What she's doing is not right. She's against the Empire, and she's doing all this stuff that's wrong. And now it's affecting her real life, her family, the people that she does care about. Perrin is Perrin. We might not like him, but she clearly feels something for him. So she does care about him, and we know she cares about her daughter. So it's very interesting that now that everything's affecting her real life, she's starting to go back and be like, is what I'm doing right? Is this the right way to fight this fight? The same way that Saw fights his fight, Mon Mothma is fighting her own fight. But yes, the scene, the way it was acted, the way it was written, how Vel kind of just talks to her, and how she just lets everything out on the table. And also the little moments, like I really did love that scene when the daughter comes out of the like classroom and goes to say hi to Vel, and then just like gives these like very dark, like just like stank eyes to Mon Mothma, like
Yeah.
like I hate your guts. But it's like, but you're accepting all of this proposal stuff. It's very weird. I really don't know where we're leading towards this, and I'm intrigued because I want to see the moment that Mon Mothma loses her family. And when I say lose, I don't mean that they're gonna die or anything. It's just she has, not that she has to, but she
Maybe
should.
Perrin. Yeah, maybe Perrin. He can die.
Yeah, I don't care.
No, but we've said here, I think like 3 or 4 weeks in a row, is what's going to be that catalyst that separates Mon Mothma from her family. We've always said, not always, just a few weeks ago, we've been saying this proposal stuff. Is Perrin going to be for it or against it? Is that going to cause the rift? But now we see that it's her daughter, Lida, Mo, I remember her name, Lida, is into it. Or is she just doing it to get back at Mon Mothma? But if Perrin is okay with it, maybe she wouldn't, because Lida and her dad seems to have a good relationship. But maybe I saw someone else post on Twitter that it's some people that grow up one way, when their kids come up, they want to go the other way. If you're too religious, I'll go the other way. Or if you're not religious at all, I'll go into those traditional values. So maybe it's one of those stuff. And we see it's not just her, that she has all her Chandrilan friends are there. But yeah, it's very weird, but very intriguing still to see where that twist is going to come. When she loses her family, when she has to decide, is it the family or the rebellion? And when is that going to happen and how? Because like we said at the beginning, at this point, she knows nothing about Andor, doesn't know what's going on. So this is completely separate from what's going on to the other 75% of the players on this series.
Yeah.
So, and this isn't going to be resolved next episode. Next episode most likely is going to be almost all on Ferric. So season 2 is going to be very interesting to see how it moves on.
Yeah.
So one last question before we end and go to our fan questions. I was going to ask you before about Luthen. Do you think Luthen is going to show up on Ferrix during the finale, or he's just going to stay away?
I mean, I feel like he should stay away, but the way the character is looking and the way the character is, feeling about the whole Andor situation, I feel like he's going to end up on Ferrix and kind of be caught in the middle of a situation that he does not want to be caught in.
Yeah, when I watched it the first time, I was like, there's no way in hell that he shows up in Ferrix. He has no reason to be there. He has Vel, he has Cinta. But when I rewatched it last night, he tells Cleda, he's too important to lose. This buyer, this player is too important to lose. Someone else might pick him up. So I think he will show up. I was on the other side, but after rewatching, I think he'll be there.
Yeah.
All right. And that brings an end to our Andor Files for episode 11, the penultimate episode. One more. Tony, final predictions for the finale.
Well, like we said, all roads lead to Ferrix. I think it's going to be one of those, moments of just pure anxiety and
the tension is going to be.
Yeah, the tension is just going to be what's going to happen. Are we going to start right on the funeral? Are we going to have these like Empire spies waiting for Andor? How is Andor going to come in? But, I feel like what we really need to see is that moment of Andor becoming a leader. And Ferrix could be that stepping stone that he needs, right? These people, while we know that they have some sort of rebel cell system going on, they're not fairly organized. And I do think that Andor is going to be that like kind of like glue that starts to hold the Ferrix rebels together. And I just can't wait for that moment when Andor starts to fight the real fight.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be interesting. Again, we've been waiting, and I thought it was gonna happen like in episodes 3 or 4. Oh, he'll join the fight, and now we're
Yeah.
at the end of the first season. I still don't know if Maarva's death is enough to push him. What's happening to Biggs might be another big push. What's gonna be that thing, that catalyst again, that kind of pushes him into joining the fight?
Hmm.
And also, how different is he gonna do this to the way that Luthen is doing it? Like you said, maybe he's the glue that brings everything together. The people of Ferrix we know like him, so it's gonna be very interesting. But we know Deidre is going over there. She has some Death Troopers with her that are gonna show up. Cyril Karn, obviously, she's gonna be there. He's gonna be joining Deidre, going his separate way.
Hmm.
Um, we know Vel and Cinta are gonna be there. We know Andor obviously is gonna show up, and then the people will rally behind him. So it's gonna be a very intense episode. Uh, Tensions are gonna be high. So drink your coffee early
Yes.
and be ready for it.
Yes,
All right,
sir.
one more episode of Andor. And with that, we bring to an end our talk on Andor and the Andor files. But something we haven't done in a while is hear from you guys on our segment Rebel Thoughts.
Well done. You're a rebel now.
And of course, it had to be K2. I know Rebel Thoughts little thing there is from Rogue One, but our first question comes from our friend Mo. She's in the chat. Mo at GeneMyStardust. She asks, now that we have most of season 1, would you have been open to 5 seasons of Andor? It was revealed, I think, before the season started, that the original plan was, I think, 5 seasons of Andor, and they decided to do 2, with season 2 covering 4 years. So season 1 is 1 year before Rogue One, and then season 2 every 3 years is going to be 1 year leading up to Rogue One. So, Tony, my question to you from Mo: are you okay with 2 seasons, or would you have preferred 5?
I mean, I love a good show that just has more than 5 or 6 seasons, and you can just like binge and just spend a good time with it. But I feel like it would have felt way too long, and it would have maybe dragged on a little bit more than it should have. Now that we've seen season 1 and know how we're kind of gonna tie it up, knowing that season 2 is a lot of time jumps and a lot of, you know, situations that will happen, you know, with time in between. I think 2 seasons is an okay number. You know, I feel like 3 maybe would have been the right choice just to have the time to tell the story, but 5 maybe was maybe a little bit too long for me.
Yeah, for me, I don't know. It's because I'm getting old or something. I love series that are like 2 or 3 seasons long. That's fine. Mando's going on season 3. We already know season 4 is coming, maybe 5. I'm like, just finish the show. I need it to end. Not because it's bad. I love The Mandalorian, but I can't just keep going season after season. I think I think I'm blaming The Walking Dead. I think after 8 or 9 seasons of The Walking Dead, I'm like, I gotta stop.
Yeah.
It's the same thing over and over. I can't do it. And I stopped watching years ago. I think that's when I kind of started dropping about these longer seasons. So I'm like, 2 seasons is fine because they're 12 episodes. They're 45 to 50 minutes long. We're getting a lot of story. If it was 30 minutes and it was just 6 or 8 episodes, yeah, give me more. But I think we're getting enough with these 12 episodes that I'm okay with it. If season 2 comes out and they decide, well, actually, we're going to do season 3 somehow, I'll probably enjoy it. But 2 seasons is fine. 5 seasons, maybe. Again, we haven't had a bad episode so far. You mind 5 seasons or just a great episode week after week? Might have been something. All right, our second question comes from my friend Brennan at Brennan Mystical, and he asks, if you had to have lunch with a Star Wars character, who would it be and why? Tony, you're our guest, so you won't have too much to think, or you gotta answer quick.
I mean, I have a lot of favorite characters in Star Wars and people who I love, but my one through and through is Obi-Wan. I love him way too much to pass up a lunch with. Like I have him tattooed
There you
on
go.
my body. So I feel like I would definitely love a lunch with Obi-Wan and just just talk to him about, hey, how was it being Qui-Gon's Padawan? How was it living through the fall of the Jedi Order, and all of these things that Obi-Wan went through? It's just an amazing story to tell.
That's a good one. My favorite character, I said before, is Boba Fett. I don't think I'll want to have lunch with him. I love Obi-Wan also. I think the easy question, kind of the cop-out, is saying Dexter Jettster. Let me just go to his cantina. That's too easy. I'll go back to the High Republic. Give me Geode and the crew of the vessel. I think there will be a great group. Leox and all those. Let me just hang out with them for a little bit. Get from Geo some stories, see how the hell he moves from place to place being a rock. I think that's I'll go 250 years before everything to the High Republic and the vessel crew.
Great choice. Great choice.
All right, so that kind of brings an end to our episode. Let me kind of check some final comments from our friends on the chat. Nick is kind of adding, I hope Zero meets Luthen on the box to Ferrix. That's a weird boss, but yeah, that would have been a good one.
Yeah.
Roberto is agreeing 5 seasons, yes, but whatever the script calls for, because fans will tear it up apart if it drags that right. But like we said, it's been working. Nick also said 2 seasons on Cassian, 2 seasons on Big, and 2 seasons on Maarva. There you go. I guess in Biggs, he meant Biggs, but all right. And Mo is answering her questions. I would love for you to delve further into characters Cassian, Melshi, Mon, Luthen, Saw. Give us some one-offs on those characters. I would love them. All right. So as we're saying goodbye before Tony, we reach out, we let you kind of say your piece. Thanks to everyone in the chat. Thank you, Mo, Roberto, Nick, Dale. Am I missing anyone else? Everyone that showed up in the chat. Thanks for being here today. You guys are always awesome. We'll be here next week for ours. Not only our Cassian finale, it's also our season 5 finale for Radio Rebellion. It's going to be our 27th episode this season. Me talking about long seasons. I've been doing this 27 episodes so far. We're going to take 1 week off. We'll be back on December 10th with the trivia finale for championship, and then we're taking off probably till sometime early to mid-January. So make sure to be here next week. We have Maggie, Lovett, and also Amin joining us for that next week. Today, our guest has been the great Tony Figueroa. Thanks for joining us again. Let people know where they can find you out there, anything you're working on right now.
Of course, thank you for having me again. You guys can find us at Film Not Included on Instagram and Twitter. You can also check us out at Otis, El Podcast de Star Wars. I'm a guest star there pretty much frequently. You can follow us on Twitter, and you have a lot of information there, and just check us out.
Yeah, we'll have you back at some point when Otis is back, and then you guys can gang up on me, but we'll see how that goes. But Tony, thanks for being here again. Thanks for everyone that was in the chat. You guys, that's not the music I want. You know what? We're going with my old intro. You can listen to my old intro as I say goodbye. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you guys next week. Have a great Star Wars Saturday. Stay safe. Be safe. And may the Force be with you.